So today's topic is in and out, the easy ways to get information into and out of pipeline. So today we'll cover the different ways that you can kind of bulk upload or extract information to share or utilize in your office. We're not going to cover, just to kind of give you a heads up, we're not going to cover kind of the basics that we know you know, like adding a transaction or uploading a doc, although we will cover how to do those things in bulk, but we're not going to do those very basic things that you do and already know how to do every day. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm going to take this in chunks, so meaning types of data. So I'm going to start with transactions, how to get your transactions into pipeline. Everything's going to be into to start. So how to get your transactions into pipeline. And one of the most obvious ways to do that is using our import transactions tool. So let me head over to pipeline and click the transactions tab. And you'll see over here on the left an import transactions menu item. And I'm going to click it. And what this feature does is it allows you, in cases, let's say, where you're moving from a paper system to a paperless system and you need to upload all of your transactions into it, or maybe you need to upload your backload all of your transactions, your old historical ones. Or maybe you're moving from a paperless system already and you need to move them from that system into this one. And most systems will allow you to do a download of transaction information. So if you download it from that system, then you can use this tool to upload it to pipeline. Okay. So all those, any scenario basically where you need to bulk upload a lot of transactions, that's what this tool is for. And it helps you because once you're here, you can download a sample spreadsheet by clicking this link. And then head over to that spreadsheet. You'll see sample data there. You just replace it with your own data and then return to the page and upload that or select that spreadsheet, and those transactions will be uploaded into your account. Okay. If there are errors, it nicely tells you what those are and allows you to redo the process, etc. Keep in mind that you can only upload as many transactions as your plan allows. So we'll just need to keep that in mind as well. So that is the method of getting transactions into the system in bulk. So let's take a look now, switching over to checklists. Head over to admin and then checklists. So there are several things I want to touch on to get your checklists in really easily. And typically you'll do or add your checklist templates when you're setting up, but there are certainly occasions where you have new checklists that you're adding down the road. And all of those would be, all these tips would be beneficial then. So first is when you're on your checklist page here, let's say you've got, you're going to add a checklist that's similar to another checklist that you've already added. In that case, you can simply right-click and say copy template. That'll copy over the template and all of its different data. And then all you need to do is tweak it to be specific for this particular checklist. Okay, change that, take that out, change it to whatever the name is, etc. Okay, a common reason people might do that is maybe they're duplicating a checklist for a different location or different office or different team, right? And so they want to duplicate it and just make the necessary changes and change the location. Okay. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention while I'm right here on the checklist that setting your checklist up to be automatically assigned, meaning this feature here, this little shaded box, checking that, to be automatically assigned whenever you possibly can is the best way of getting your data into the system easily. It's as hands-free as you're going to get. It's automatic. The checklists get added automatically whenever is appropriate to the appropriate transactions. Okay, so utilize that whenever you possibly can. And again, if you've got any questions that I want to dive deeper into any of this, reach out and let us know. So that's auto checklists. Also, when you're adding these tasks here, sometimes these lists can get a little long and typing those in individually can be a lot of work. So we've added this feature down here, which allows you to bulk add tasks. Okay, so let's say you've got a spreadsheet of your tasks that you're working from, Or let's say, let me open our checklist list over here for a moment in a separate tab. Let's say you downloaded a checklist template previously, right? You can download a template, and then maybe you massaged it and played with it offline and changed the tasks, etc. And let me open up one over here. And then you wanted to now upload these tasks that you've kind of modified. You could copy those, or any spreadsheet or doc that you've got list of where you've got a list of tasks, paste them into that bulk add tasks area, and then add tasks. And it'll nicely, now that list is super long, but it'll nicely add those tasks for you without having to type them into each field. Okay, so huge time saver there. Okay. So those are some tips that can help you get your checklists in quickly and the tasks within them. Let's move on to docs now. So let me head over to a transaction. Getting your docs into the system, obviously you can, when you're on a transaction or you're in an assigned, etc., you can upload the docs individually, right? Clicking one of those upload options. But you can also send them to yourself, which you probably already know that as well. But if you wanted to send it to a transaction, that can be easier when, let's say, a message has been sent to you and it's got docs attached. Instead of downloading those docs and then coming here and uploading them, which is a couple extra steps, you can just forward that message to your transaction mail drop address or to your unassigned mail drop address, both of which you see at the top of transactions, each individual transaction, or at the top of your unassigned docs page, right? Keep in mind that your mail drops that you see either on unassigned or on the transaction are unique to you. They are your mail drop addresses. If someone else sends to them, things will get kind of wonky because you will see that other person's docs because they've sent it to your transaction mail drop address. So just be sure when you're sending in your docs, you recognize that they are unique to you. Only send to mail drop addresses that you see when you're logged in on that transaction or on unassigned. Okay. But again, super quick way of getting them into the system because you can forward those messages. In some cases, it's easy to just initiate new messages and attach your docs rather than coming to the system, whichever you prefer, whichever you find more convenient. All right. So mailing docs is a quick way of getting docs into the system. Also, when you do upload them directly into the system, let me go ahead and initiate that process here. When I'm pulling my docs, I don't have to select them one at a time, right? I can select multiple docs at a time. If I'm on a PC, I can hold down, actually PC or Mac, I can hold down my Shift key and then tap the first doc that I want to select and then the last doc while I'm holding my Shift key, and that'll select a group of docs for me. If I want to select, pick and choose individual docs, I can hold down my Control key on a PC or Command on a Mac and select non-contiguous docs there, or different docs in a separate order, right? Or if I wanted to just select all docs, I can do Control A or Command A from a Mac to select all docs, and then say open so I can upload them all at once, okay? And as you know, when I'm uploading multiple docs, if I select the permission category, that populates on down, so it makes it super easy to upload a ton of docs at once when I'm uploading them directly, all right? And then the last little tip I wanted to show you or tell you about for docs is grouping them, particularly for scanning. So if I'm scanning in some docs, maybe 8 docs, and I don't want to scan them all in separate scan jobs, I can just scan them in all at once. Then once they're in here, let me head over to a different transaction here. Then once they're in here, I can break them apart. So let's say, there it is. Let's say I want to break this apart. It's an 18-page doc. Maybe it consists of about 6 actual separate docs. Then I can specify my break apart configuration here, specify the name, etc. And that way I've done one scan job and can break them apart after the fact. Now, if I do this regularly, in other words, let's say I've got a similar configuration, I've always got my listing agreement and then this doc and that doc, etc., always in the same order, I can actually save this as a break apart template here. Save this as a new template. And if I do, you know, set that configuration, set my doc names, etc., and then save that as a new template, give it a name. The next time I need to actually break apart a similar doc, select that template and say go, and it'll populate that for me, saving a ton of time each time I run that break apart. Okay, and I can even, let's say it's similar but not exactly the same, I can tweak this afterwards. So maybe this, in this case, I have my addendums 2 pages. I could change that from 15 to 19, etc., or change the names to be specific to this particular break apart. Okay, so another convenient way or quicker way of getting your data into the system. Okay, I also wanted to mention, so moving over to users. So let me head over to manage users. That was for docs. So for manage users, either when I'm first getting my data into the system and setting up, or maybe I've acquired a new office and I've got a whole bunch of agents I need to add, etc. If you have that scenario, and you've got a lot of agents to upload, not just a handful or a couple handfuls, but a lot where it's going to be too arduous to upload, you know, hundreds of agents, head over to our help site, set up our agent roster article, and you'll see some instructions for allowing us to help you upload those agents. If you provide us a spreadsheet with certain data, we'll go ahead and help you get those into the system. Okay. A little tip there. And likewise, just generally, if you ever run into a scenario where you've just got a ton of data that you need to upload, and it seems not feasible to manually do so, reach out to us and let us know. We'll let you know if it's something we can do maybe from our end, and we're happy to do so if we possibly can. Okay? All right. So those are all the ways of getting your data into the system. So let's look at a few ways to get your data out of the system. So probably the most common way of getting your data is through reporting. Obviously, I'm going to click my little reports tab here, and that'll show me all the different reports that I can run and the relevant data for each. If I've got the commission and reporting module, if I subscribe to that, then those reports will show as well. So reporting is a straightforward way of getting your data. Also, if you head over to transactions or even unassigned or unreviewed, you've got different searching and filtering capabilities within each of those pages, and tasks as well. So I've got the ability to do some searching and some filtering and sorting, etc., to really manipulate the data to pull exactly what I need to see. Okay, so you've got some nice customization features there to pull the data that you need to be able to extract. So that's one way of doing that. And just like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago in the webinar, I'll give you a little sneak peek that we're about to combine these tabs so that you've got more robust reporting features that'll make it much more ad hoc, so you can pull exactly the data that you need to. You'll have the ability to search on all the transaction dates, not just these couple here. So again, it'll pretty much give you full ad hoc reporting capabilities to pull exactly the data that you need to. Okay, and that should be coming soon. So reporting, again, obvious way to get your data. Also downloads. There are several areas throughout the system where you can download your data. I mentioned how you can download the checklist templates, right, and play with those offline and do what you need to. Also transaction downloads. So when you're on your transactions, any of your transaction pages, over on the left, these 3 spreadsheet options will allow you to download all of your transaction field data. Okay, so you've got, and it's broken down by last year, this year, and full spreadsheet. And what these years mean are the years, or excuse me, the date that the transaction was added. So all transactions added in 2017 will appear in the spreadsheet if you download this one. All added in 2018, etc. And then if you're trying to get it independent of when it was added, you would run the full spreadsheet. Okay. And a lot of times we'll hear people who want to download all transactions closed in a certain period. If that's the case, you want to actually download your full spreadsheet. Again, this is when they were added. So if you want them when they're closed, just run your full spreadsheet and then sort by the close date, and then you can look at the data that is within the range that you're looking for the close date. okay? And any other sorts that you want. You could be sorting by agent. You want to see all transactions for a particular agent beyond what you can search for here, meaning having more data than what you can see here, etc. That's where this full spreadsheet would come into play. It gives you full sorting, filtering capability, so you can look at it whatever way you need to. This is kind of the catch-all of everything you could possibly need would likely be in this spreadsheet. Okay. User download. Let me head over to admin settings. Another way to download your data is when you're under manage users, you've got this download user list. So if you ever need to pull offline all of your users and these fields that are listed here, that's where you would go. And then of course your monthly backup. That's available each month. You'll get that notification when it's available. And that's going to include everything. So about the transactions that are downloaded. Remember that the backups include all transactions added for the month and all transactions closed, meaning closed, fell through, or expired for the month. So you'll, once transactions close, you'll have all that data offline if you're downloading your monthly backups. And that's a source for auditors, a source for, in some cases, handing over data to agents or clients that you need to. That's all of your information, and you can decide which information of that you want to hand over and hand that over appropriately. Okay, and likewise, let me head over to a specific transaction here. Just like you're looking at your monthly backups to get transaction information, if you really only wanted to see or download information for a specific transaction, you can come to the transaction and click download transaction to download that individual transaction. That the information that's in this download is exactly what's in the monthly backup, but only for this transaction. Okay. So this can be handy if an admin, say, wants to hand over a transaction to an agent or, again, a client after a transaction closes. They just want to be sure, though, that, or you want to be sure if you do that, to remove any data that whoever you're handing it to should not have access to, because this is a full backup here. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and so that's it for the downloads, but that kind of transitions us to the next area, which is mailing docs. Let's say if you wanted to hand this transaction over to an agent or a client, you could download it, but you could also mail the docs to the person if they just needed the docs, right? Or let's say it's an agent who wanted the docs, they can actually mail it to themselves. So if I'm on this transaction and let's say I'm an agent and I want to get these docs offline, I can just select myself, click that top checkbox there to select all the docs, and then send it to myself. Okay, and that way I'm only getting the docs that I can see, obviously, because I can see them, and then mailing them to myself. Okay, or a client, or whoever you need to actually send them to. All right. And similar to that, just a little trick here, and that is, let's say I wanted to mail or send one of these docs, actually a part of one of these docs, maybe not this full listing agreement, but one of the docs contained within there. I could actually, you all know how to break apart already, but I could actually extract a page from a doc. So let's say I really only wanted to send page 6 to someone, then I can do that and name that, you know, whatever it is. Don't delete the original in this case because I'm just extracting one page. And now I've extracted a single page that I can send to whomever it was that I extracted this for. So just a little tip there for getting that data to send out without actually rescanning it and uploading it to get it back in there. Okay. And then the last thing I want to tell you about, there we go, okay, is a couple of printing tips. So I know we're a paperless system, and generally you're trying to not print out anything or kill any trees, but there are certainly occasions where you just simply need to print out a transaction or some other information. The system has been designed to format this printout nicely. So it will first print the checklists, right, on a separate page, and then your transaction and everything that follows. Okay. So it's nice when, again, you need to deliver this to someone, maybe that summary information at the top or what have you. You've got the ability to do that. Likewise, whenever you're sending the cover sheet, that's formatted nicely, which is this option here, attached this transactions cover sheet whenever you're sending it. That's formatted nicely to include contacts if you need to, or not include contacts, as well as the general information for the transaction. Okay, so another way of getting that information to people. And then the last little printing tip that I wanted to mention was a little tip that I just find super helpful, is even though it's super simple, and that is just copying and printing your selection. Let's say I really only wanted to print this top information here. I could copy it and then use my printer's print browser, and then find the area in Chrome, it happens to be under More, and say Selection Only. And you see it will nicely only print that information that you selected. And I just find that handy, like all the time, whether I'm in Pipeline or not, to be able to print only what I need to print, and then leave the rest alone. Okay, so just a little helpful tip there that can help you in some cases, hopefully.